Shalom. This is Mary Omni from the World Government House of King David, Holy Covenant Constitutional Enforcer. This is a Republic Notice. The title of this Republic Notice is a question. Is the black man God? Is the black man God? In 2013, in the month of June of 2013, would a God be on the corners, flapping his gums while his nation is being devastated? On the corners, quoting from the Bible, but not doing the works, having faith without works? Evidently, he don't believe he's a God. Otherwise, he would have the works to back up his faith, and he wouldn't be on the corner reading all day long while women and children are suffering. Okay? Now, is the black man God? That's a good question. But the answer lies even deeper than you can believe. And this is why it lies deeper. The black man wants to believe he's God within his own glory of his self. And the problem with that is he will be willing, and he has been willing, to go through 8 captivities and to drag women and children to 8 captivities to prove he was higher than the black woman, to prove he was somehow separate, to prove he somehow stood in his own glory, to prove he somehow had some kind of masculine hierarchy over her. So, is he God? Is he God because he's willing to go into 8 captivities to prove he's separate and higher than the woman that gives him birth? I mean, would 16 captivities be enough to prove his godship? 1 wasn't enough. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 captivities. North America being the last one. He still haven't proven he was above the black woman, even with 8 captivities. He still hasn't proven he was a God in his own might. I mean, he's willing to go to fall under soulless entities just to prove he's in his own glory. And it hasn't panned out that he's a God. All that is panned out is that he's the fallen. That he's the fallen. And that he's not even living up to the capacity of a complete man, let alone a God, at 70%, as they say. They will tell you that they 70% away from the black woman. They even brag about their 70% away from the black woman. They brag about how the black woman is not this, how the black woman is not that, how she made them faggots, how she did this to them. They brag about how Eve did this to them. They all on the World Wide Web beast, displaying their willingness to invite their enemies in some more for a 9th captivity if it's capable of doing that. See, because their display of all this attack on the black woman is an attack on the woman's seed itself. That's the seed that the Mashiach comes through. So he's declaring that he's not really part of the Mashiach. So he's declaring he's not a God. So if it's coming out of his mouth through his actions, I would behoove those who's questioning whether or not he's a God to look at him saying he's not. Because if he was a God, he wouldn't be attacking the Judah woman that gives birth to the Mashiach. The same Judah woman that he was born from, what God would attack his own body? What God would attack his own mother? What God would stand and tell the world that he's assisting in trampling his own mother nation? What God do you know that would say any other woman is better than the woman he came out of the womb of? What God do you know that would be willing to go into 8 captivities just to prove somehow he was a God in his own glory, separate from the black woman that gives him birth? What God do you know that'll be willing to tell all his weaknesses to all his enemies on the internet and act as if he's separate from the woman he born from, as if his enemies are going to be as dumb as him and not see through him and his stupidity and attack him quicker? What God do you know would say any other woman that he doesn't seed is better than the woman he seeds, of the original seed he from? What God you know that would say any other rib is better than the rib that he's from? What God do you know will fight the woman that has raised him and kept him for 500 years with all kind of demonic beasts attacking her? What kind of God will be willing to take from his own nation and give to any nation that open their legs with foreign women? What kind of God you know that are willing to be vampire feeders, feed their blood to vampires over and over and over again, and then be stupid enough to say, well, we're going to annihilate the vampires by keep on feeding you their blood. So as long as I stick my phallus in you and give you my blood, I'm somehow annihilating you. Now, really, what God do you know that's really, really, really that stupid? If the black man is God in 2013, the world better watch out. If the black man is God, the world better look at itself and ask itself, why would creation give you such a stupid, idiotic, socially retardation of a God? Because this God is socially retarded. If he is God, he's socially retarded. Now, a white woman kissing his boots because he's claiming to be a Hebrew Israelite on the corner don't change his social retardation, because that's that same white woman that wanted to hold him in captivity in Dred Scott and have voted for 100 years to make sure he's shot in jail and he's raped in jail and he's shot in head, so she can kiss his boots right into his next captivity. She can kiss his boots, his toes, the bottom of his feet, and put him right into the next captivity, because that's what she's always done through his 8 captivities. She always saw that he was the weakest God that could ever be, the most easy manipulated, and all she got to do is to appeal to his third density, because he has no critical thinking beyond his phallus and ego, because evidently the God in his heart, he fights. The God in his soul, he fights. So if the black man is God, then we understand why the world in trouble. Okay? If the black man is God, you better understand not only is the black woman in trouble, but he's the cause of the world trouble. See, because only if he is God, and he let the world get in the state it's in because he wanted to be in his own glory, then the God he must be is the God of satanic glory, okay? Because that's the only God that he matches at this particular time. Now, that's the black man, okay? Now, he's the black man because he's not with a woman that he's raising the nation with. When he's with the woman of his kind that he's raising a nation with, then he's a man-UE son, or potential God-man in the servitude of the Most High God. Okay? Right now, this God he's talking about is serving Satan. If he's 70% away from the black woman, that means 70% of them is walking in a fallen state without a rib. And they're nowhere near God because they're nowhere near any kind of manhood. There are Satan Frankensteins, really. They're walking Satan Frankensteins. They're on the level of zombieism so they can feed their blood to soulless dracons to suck their blood and get their blood to prolong the draconic regime of ruling the earth. Because when you look at what a real God is, it tells you in Genesis. God was made in the image of he and she. It tells you in Genesis, is no good for a man without his rib. And it tells you in Genesis 1:11 that I made one each after his own kind. After his own kind. So, if he's not after his own kind, if he don't have his rib, and if he's not with the black female, he's nowhere near a God. And he will never reach God's status at this point because we're at the end of days. And there are men, black men, that are gods, but 70% to 80% are not even men, let alone gods. They're an apostate. They're an apostate that's coming to light. They're an apostate of the earth. They're an apostate of the Judah nation. They're an apostate of a black man image. They're an apostate of a fallen God. They're an apostate. They have always, in truth, been part of the Dracon soulless feeders. And that's all they are, feeders. And what happened was black women tried to see them as more than feeders, but what they are is feeders, and that's what they're going to show. That's why they run with foreign women, all not like their womankind. They always been soulless feeders. They feed the souls of they feed their souls and blood to draconic energies, so them draconic energies can gain light and soul light that they don't have and don't belong to them. And that's what they are. They are vampire feeders. They are the apostate in the appearance of a black man. If he's not with a black woman, he's not a true black man. And it's just that simple. He's an apostate. In 2013, if he's not with a black woman, he's an apostate. And he is part of the feeding frenzy of the Dracon soulless. Not a God. This is Mary Omni from the House of King David. Shalom.